Hello, and welcome to POMA Does, a podcast produced by the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. We provide a voice for osteopathic medicine and share insights on issues important to osteopathic physicians, residents, and students, as well as those who embrace the osteopathic philosophy. POMA's mission is to promote the distinctive philosophy and practice of osteopathic medicine in Pennsylvania for our members and their patients. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, and welcome to our latest episode of the POMA Does podcast series, which we put out for our members, fellow osteopathic physicians across the state of Pennsylvania. I'm Joseph Zawissa, DO, immediate past president of the POMA Board of Trustees, and a member of District 11 in central Pennsylvania. I'm joined today by Dr. Valerie Roth and Dr. Stephen Blake. Val, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. I am the district chair for District 9, which is Western Pennsylvania, somewhere between the Erie district and the Pittsburgh district. I'm an ENT physician and super excited to be part of the POMA family.
Great. Thank you. And Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm representing District 1 in Philadelphia. I'm a gastroenterologist with a private practice here in Philadelphia, as well as a graduate of PCOM, and doing the best I can to stay independent and excited to be part of POMA to help make it as strong as possible.
Great. Thank you. I think that's something we actually all have in common. I'm also independent in practice with my sister, and it certainly has its headaches and its joys too at the same time. I think you would all agree. But we're here tonight to discuss our districts, which are the building blocks of our state osteopathic medical organization. And POMA, just as a brief introduction, is divided into 13 geographic districts representing the entire state. Those districts are what we use to determine folks that will represent us at the Board of Trustees level, at the House of Delegates level, and even to some extent to the national AOA House of Delegates level. So we take great pride in our districts and in developing good districts, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So kind of starting at the beginning, Val, I'm going to throw this to you. You're in District 9, which at one point had been a very active district and then became not so active for a time. And in the last few years, I've seen you help to resurrect that. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did to get where we are now?
Sure. So as you said, this district used to be very active. When I was a kid, my dad was a doc here and always did the Western Pennsylvania weekend conference. He'd be gone for the whole weekend. And then somewhere along the way, people kind of just disengaged. And it would have been at the District 8 meeting. We had a little gathering of people that were there that were from District 9. And they had asked if anyone was willing to step up and, work on getting things back together. And so I volunteered at that time. And it was kind of bad timing because COVID came about a month and a half later. And kind of took the wind out of our sails for a little bit. And we were relegated to doing all kinds of virtual interactions. It's been a little bit challenging for me because I've had to kind of figure it out as I'm going, learning what is the governance layout and trying to get people involved. I think we see that just about everywhere that I'm involved is everybody has a very limited amount of time. Everybody's working hard. Their kids are involved in tons of activities. And so it's trying to figure out how to get people to be engaged. And so far, I think the most effective thing that I've been doing is one-on-one interactions, just calling people and saying, hey, I'd like you to be involved with this. Have not gotten a lot of assertive positives to get involved, but getting some, well, maybe you could tell me a little more about it, and working to get people involved at that level right now.
Great. Yeah, it's definitely an effective strategy to reach out to people one-on-one, and sometimes that's what you have to do. It's good to hear where you are, and it's always good to hear about family members that are part of the osteopathic family too. Steve, your district is in a slightly different area of the life cycle of districts. District 1 also used to be really active. In the last several years, we've seen it be not quite as active. So can you tell us a little bit about where you are in District 1?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I'm nowhere in District 1. I've had an opportunity to receive an exhausted list of DOs that are in District 1, which includes both graduate medical education trainees as well as licensed osteopathic physicians. And it's a very large list. So I was a little dismayed to see that there were so many DOs in such an apathetic district as it is. And briefly having conversation with Valerie, kind of shocked that with the college itself being here in Philadelphia proper, and they have such an apathetic district. Up to this point, the only thing I've done is to try to get exposed to other districts, I think similar to what Valerie might have mentioned. So I visited a dinner lecture with District 10 last month, and I've done a district dinner lecture with District 10 as recently as this past Friday, just trying to become acclimated to how things function. Now, I don't have family that were osteopathic physicians before myself, not close family. I had a third cousin who's deceased now, who was a graduate of the Iowa School, but he practiced until he retired in Dayton, Ohio, and was very instrumental in establishing the Osteopathic College at Ohio University. So that's my family relationship with the DO world. But as a result of the pandemic, there's been additional time that I find is available for me to want to get involved with the State Osteopathic Association, POMA, if you will. And so that's what brought me to the table. And at this point, at this age, I'm interested in doing what I can to help strengthen POMA, because most of us need to be aware of what's taking place on the national stage with the relationship that has been established between our allopathic brothers along with our osteopathic family. And there are good things, but they're not all good things. And so I'm interested in being involved in trying to help the relationship to be more of a strong win-win relationship. So that's why I'm here, and I'm interested in doing what I can to contribute to revitalizing District 1, because it still should be very strong.
Absolutely. We'd love to see all our districts that strong, and especially District 1, which is, holds kind of what was formerly the mothership before there were other osteopathic schools in the state. But, one thing that I heard both of you kind of say in different ways is getting involved. And I think, that was the thing that got me, to be active in my district and eventually go through the state leadership succession, was getting involved. My own district, many years ago was in the same place in the cycle that we've mentioned, not very active, not really existent. And one of my mentors, Dr. Samuel Garloff, was part of that and decided that he really wanted to make District 11 come alive again. And he started getting involved with more things. He was showing up, he was saying, "What do you need me to do?" And before long, he was bringing along friends and creating a more active district than it had been, to the point that we can now boast 3 presidents from our district within the last 15 years, which is fantastic. And certainly the point is not that everybody has to be president of POMA or any other organization, but you certainly don't get your leaders without having an active membership. So when I first came back to the area after my residency, I started going to meetings. I do have the good fortune of being the son of an osteopathic physician. And, my dad, Mike Zoissa, another one of my mentors, of course, and he took me to meetings with them. And, you showed up and they'd say, "Well, we need somebody to do this." You raise your hand and you get picked for something. And before you know it, you're one of the rocks that's at every district meeting, and you're getting more and more responsibilities within the district. And that leads to more responsibility in the state. So it's really interesting to see that. I guess a lot of things have life cycles, and that's just where we are in ours. Something interesting that happened in the last few years, well, last year or two, I should probably say, is after COVID, I think a lot of us suffered in many ways, not just professionally, but our organizations did too in many ways. And in order to attract new members, once we were able to meet again in person, one of the things that we found that was kind of hindering us that we changed was we changed our meeting spot. I have maybe the disadvantage of being in a district that's very long but narrow, so it's hard to find a central location. And we did find a central location, but all we were really drawing was people from the central location. So we were missing the 2 ends of our district. And we had a new district chair come along, and he changed some of our meetings to be in different areas of the district. So that's certainly one technique that has helped our district. And I'm sure you've probably maybe have seen it in your districts too. But some of our districts in Pennsylvania are very large. Two of them take up almost half the state combined, which is quite a good bit of area. So do either of you have other ideas of what can help to build the district or the meetings?
Well, Valerie may mention that some of the direct phone calls that she had made, and some of the questions was, well, tell me more about it. Now, to me, that means tell me, why should I get involved? Why should I carve out time after a busy day to want to add more to my day? So I think if we can work with POMA to help lead the districts so that they can be the foot soldiers throughout the state based on POMA helping to guide the districts what they need or should use to incite the members in their districts. And that's my thoughts.
I think another perspective too is, like you're mentioning about the focal point, the rallying cry. I think another perspective on this is the camaraderie amongst physicians, because we live a unique life that nobody else really understands. And I think that there's a piece of it, like the social piece of it, that I think can be a draw as well to, help get some people involved. And especially when we take time to be family inclusive. So, if you have some sort of a gathering or event where you can include your family, you're more likely to get somebody to come out because they're sacrificing their time from their family. I think that's one of the biggest people don't participate. So I think that those times when you can do that, that can be helpful. And then you start to allow people to build friendships. And then there's some component wanting to participate because some of your friends are going to be there and it's a chance to hang out and see them again and interact with them. So I think that's maybe another piece of the direction.
I think it's an important piece. I know the convention and conference, scientific conference will be in a more family-oriented location for 23. And I like what you said about the inclusivity of family. Maybe more focus should be on district events that are family-oriented and not just limited to dinner lectures, whatever frequency they are. Really like that family piece. What can we do to make it easier? Because there's a lot of DO couples. So if we could, with the DO couples, or whether it's just a DO and not a DO, but with children, what can the district do maybe a couple times a year that is strictly family oriented, as opposed to everything just surrounding district dinner lecture meetings?
Yeah, that's a great point that you guys are making. I personally am 50% of one of those DO couples, and my wife also happens to sit on the board. So we have 4 little boys, and pretty much everybody on the board knows that if I can't bring them along, you might not see us. We need to find some way to bring them along. But also thinking back, some of my best memories as a kid, and part of the reason probably that I decided that osteopathic medicine was for me was going to events with my dad and going to conferences, not just in the state, but nationally too. Some of the conferences that the ACOFP and AOA used to have were some of the best times that I ever had. So it helps to build our future, the future of osteopathic medicine too. It's interesting that you're talking about that because we have looked to do more social events and not just have a pharmaceutical company take us out to dinner for a lecture. So each district now has a pot of money that they can use for social events. And a lot of times that allows members to have, 2 or 3 or 4 tickets to an event, such as a baseball game or a hockey game, or we've supported concerts. It's great to hear you say that because that's something that we've been starting to do. And some districts are taking advantage of it more than others, but those always seem to be very successful. It's nice to put down the books for a little bit and just spend time together socially. Val, I'm going to actually throw a question to you. As somebody who helped bring back a district, can you talk a little bit about what the state organization did to help support you in that role? Because we know that the districts build POMA, but in some cases, POMA helps to build the district.
I think a lot of it has been coming to the meetings, the quarterly meetings, and learning from other people there directly. There is a monthly district chair meeting. I found that one to be helpful. They also put together groupings of different districts. And I don't know if they put 3 on each one, but where I'm at, they connected me to 2 districts that are close to me so that we can help support each other and have conversations, and then on our own have meetings just to say like, okay, so what other ideas are out there? What can we do next? So we're doing that. I think one of the things too that I'm finding is Rome wasn't built in a day. And the only way to eat the elephant is you start with the toe. You can't eat the whole elephant at once. You just got to start somewhere and just start, nibbling away at it. And so each little step that you're making, I think, is super important. The fact that you've stepped up to be a voice there to say, hey, let's do something is the first step. And then you're, connecting with these other districts. There's also finances available for educational things as well as the social things. And I think even if you have a social thing and you start off with the people that you know personally and just get them to come to one, and then the next event, they could be like, hey, that was really a great event. Maybe I'll bring somebody else with me. And if they just bring one and so on and so on, and just keep building and building, it's hard because like I want it to be huge from day one, but I do think that it's being patient and persistent and getting there one step at a time.
I definitely agree. It's a process. You can't start at the top and think you're going to be at the top. You have to work your way up there to build the interest.
We're coming to the end of our time. Val, do you have any closing thoughts here on POMA districts?
No, I just would like to see more involvement from every level. It's the grassroots up and one person at a time. We just need to build our strength and keep going forward.
Great. And Steve, any final thoughts from you?
The bottom line is the strength of the state is directly related to the strength of the districts. It's like a football team. You got 11 people on the offense and 11 people on the defense. And the strength of those 11 people collectively will determine the outcome of the game, if it's a win versus a loss. That's how I see it.
That's great. As we're listening to us talk about this, it's actually a very osteopathic way of thinking about it. You can't have a strong state organization with, only 2 or 3 or 4 strong districts.
Exactly.
And you can't have a strong state organization with 1 or 2 missing either. So we're DOs through and through, and we're all proud of that, I think, and we continue to live on that thinking every day. So I appreciate you both being here, and anything that was said tonight was not meant to be, insulting or anything to any district or any person trying to build the strength of our organization. But I encourage you, if you have thoughts about the districts or anything at POMA, email us at poma@poma.org. We're on Twitter, Facebook, all kinds of ways to get in contact with us, LinkedIn, or you can even pick up the phone and call, which is such a novel idea anymore, right? But we love to hear from our members. They're the strength of our organization, and we appreciate you all listening, and we look forward to seeing you or having you watch our next episode, which will be coming out in just a few weeks. Thanks to Dr. Blake and Dr. Roth for participating with me tonight, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of POMA Does. Be sure to subscribe to POMA Does wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends and colleagues to tune in. Learn more about osteopathic medicine and POMA on our webpage, www.poma.org, and join the conversation on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, or email us at poma@poma.org. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time for another edition of POMA Does.